Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news, where sources are saying that Manchester United not only are in advanced talks with Erik ten Hag, but are now close to an agreement with Ajax in relation to the exit package and fee and compensation, but also when to announce a Ten Hag deal. Now, we'll get into the depth of that because there is a kicker to that that's not necessarily as clear as it seems. United are at pains to say that they're still working through a shortlist, but look, even Gary Neville himself is conceding that he thinks Manchester United will appoint Erik ten Hag. So we'll be getting into what Gary had to say. We'll be getting into the latest on Ten Hag and a lot of other things in relation to Manchester United. But first of all, as you can see, we've got the QR code that you can scan. This show is sponsored by Manscaped. Trim the grass, make the yard look bigger. You've heard it all before. Spring is here and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning down there. Trust me, your confidence will be blooming this spring. Time to clear out that winter bush and join over 4 million men who trust Manscaped. Use United Stand to get 25% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. So what is the Lawnmower 4.0 about? Because this is the thing that's going to get to work down there. It's got a new multifunctional on and off switch, and it's also got a travel lock for people who like to travel. The ability to turn the LED light on and off for a more precise shave. It's also waterproof. The new trimmer comes with an adjustable length, so you can cut it down to whatever length you want. Go bold or grade 1, 2, whatever. It's got a sleek two-tone matte finish, and it's even got a hot foiled stamped logo that says Manscaped on it, which is very fancy. And it, of course, its wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction charging, which can help battery life last longer. Fantastic. If only I knew what that meant. Anyway, what I do know is that if you trim the grass, you make your yard look bigger. And alongside the Lawnmower 4.0, you can get the performance package, where you get the weed whacker, the crop preserver, the crop reviver, and very comfy boxer shorts and a travel bag. And because Manscaped care about everyone that watches the show, they are giving you the code. The United Stand is the code. You get 20% off plus free shipping when you use that code United Stand at checkout. So what are you waiting for? Head over to manscaped.com today. Fantastic products. I've obviously mentioned them on the show quite a lot. I use them quite a lot as well. It's important. It's starting to get hotter. I need to free things up. Don't be shy about it. We've all got one. Well, actually, we aren't. Not all of us, because it's Manscaped and equality. Anyway, so the code is there. If you hold your phone up to the screen with the camera on that thing, it'll work its magic and take you straight to the place you need to be. Or you can go through the link in the description. Code is United Stand, free worldwide shipping, and 20% off. Let's get on with the show. Right. We're going to talk about Ten Hag straight away, because I think this is the big news that people want. We are also going to be talking about what Gary Neville said on Sky. Now, I'm not having a pop at Gary. I actually think what he said is really good. And if you watch the interview with Paul Ince this morning, I thought what he said was really good, because Paul Ince wants Poch, Gary Neville wants Poch, Nicky Butt wants Poch, Teddy Sheringham wants Poch. But when we've spoken to Paul, what did he say? It's because Poch is more familiar. He knows more about Poch. And interestingly enough, Gary Neville's admitted that as well. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, we're going to talk about Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag, exit fee. United are working to agree an exit fee for Ten Hag. Now, does that mean we're getting Erik ten Hag? We'll talk about that in a minute, but let me give you the update. This came from Sky Sports, so that's where it's come from. United have been informally gathering information around Erik ten Hag, such as what compensation figure Ajax would be expecting following his interview for the permanent managerial vacancy. However, Manchester United insist it's premature and no formal inquiry has been put forward in that regard. They have made it very clear that they do not have a preferred candidate yet. Contradictory. Sources close to Ten Hag and Ajax have suggested that dialogue has taken place with Manchester United over the financial element, as well as how to handle a possible announcement. Ajax granted permission for the formal discussion to take place and have not been obstruction to the process. PSG, meanwhile, will part company with Pochettino on their terms and not that of another club. Sources have intimated Ten Hag would be the easiest to secure, as Ajax expect him to leave. Manchester United feel it is unfair to portray Ten Hag as the front runner for the position when they're still working through their short list. So quite a bit of information to get through there. And to be honest with you, I think if I was to just cut through all the crap and say what's happened there, you've got sources close to Erik ten Hag saying that United have been working on a deal for his compensation package and when to announce the deal. You've then got United saying, whoa, that's not fair to say that because we've got other candidates. You've got PSG saying they will decide when Pochettino gets sacked, not when other clubs want to recruit him. And that's basically where we're at the moment. So I would say Erik ten Hag is still clearly the front runner for the job. I would say that Manchester United have been negotiating what it would take for Ajax to, what we would have to pay Ajax with 1 year left on the contract. And I would say there's been discussion about if they do announce the deal, when they can announce the deal. In relation to Pochettino, it doesn't look like they can do those things. They can't negotiate a compensation. They can't negotiate when they announce the deal. So look, a lot of that to me is relevant, but what's most relevant is they should be picking Erik ten Hag in my opinion anyway. I don't care if they're both free agents. I don't care if one's 40 and one's 50. I don't care if one speaks fluent English or not. The reality is I think Erik ten Hag is the better person to go for, and that Man United should go for what they want. Doesn't matter how difficult it is, you should go for what you want. If you really want Luis Enrique and he said he'll take the job in January, we should probably wait till January. I wouldn't do that. But if they really want Luis Enrique, don't not go through impatience. Go for the best man for the job. So I think Erik ten Hag's the best man for the job, and they should go for him. But the reality is, and it's becoming very, very clear now, Manchester United are able to negotiate with Ten Hag and Ajax far easier than they are with Pochettino and PSG. So Erik ten Hag is the quicker, easier deal to do, and it's also the right deal to do. So just get on with it, basically. Pochettino is the wrong deal to do in my opinion, and it's clearly a longer, harder deal to do as well. So I would just say get on with Erik ten Hag. I am not doing the 90% club. I'm not. I mean, you can all tell us what your... Addy says 90% club, Nigel Green says 50-50. I'm going to go with Nigel. I'm going to go 50-50 to be honest with you. In fact, we'll do a little bit of poll for a bit of fun. What percent are you on Ten Hag? I can only do 4, so let me just whack it into the live chat and then we'll discuss it in a bit. So we'll do. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do 25%, which is low end. We've got 50-50, which is 50%. We'll go 75%, and then nobody's going to be 100%. So we'll have as a shout out to the 90% club. We'll chuck the 90% club was born on the United stands. We've got to put 90% club there. So that is it. It's in the live chat. What percent are you on Erik ten Hag? And you can get voting on that in the chat. So yes, look, it's encouraging news. It's from Sky. I and many others are very intrigued about when David Ornstein in The Athletic is going to say something. And a couple of other outlets, I think, are due a new update. Whether it's Manchester Evening News, Romano, Simon Stone, Ducker, I think they're all overdue an update on this. And with Sky leading with their story tonight, everyone else will be digging around. I was meant to speak to somebody at 5 o'clock. They were too busy. So there you go. My info tonight hasn't come through, but we have got the update from Sky. Sometimes you can't, I'm not going to bullshit you. It's not like I fucking make it up. It's like, sometimes you think you're having a conversation and you don't. So I don't have anything to add other than that and my opinion, which hopefully means something or probably means next to nothing. But Mark, when will Man United decide their manager? What do your sources say? Well, Ram, I've literally just answered that. So hopefully I'll be able to have that chat at some point tomorrow. But as of tonight, I don't really know anything other than what we've known for the last while. I will put my hands up in the air and say that it feels like Erik ten Hag's going to get this job. Logically, from what we're hearing, I've just got this horrible fear that we'll go with Pochettino. So we'll wait and see. But I really hope that United can move forward. And it's interesting, actually. I wanted to bring this in quite early into the show. So we know that most Man United ex-players want Pochettino. Not all of them, but most of them do. We had Paul Ince on the show this morning, and he admitted it's because Pochettino is more familiar to him. Teddy Sheringham said it's because he knows more about Poch. He doesn't know anything about Erik ten Hag, really. So people are picking Poch on familiarity, which for me is not really. It's their opinion, and they've got every right to have it. But it's not a balanced opinion, is it? It's swayed by the fact that something's more familiar. It's like I said on the afternoon show. You can critique a beef chow mein if you've ate it every week, but you can't critique a Peking duck if you don't know what it tastes like. So I think that with Erik ten Hag, he's not getting a fair crack of the whip because he's not, people don't really know much about him. But this is what Gary Neville had to say on Sky today. He said, Erik ten Hag has got massive experience and he does come fresh. And Manchester United, why does that sounds all sorts of wrong. Oh my God! Read it before you read it. Bloody read it before you say it. So Gary Neville said that he does come with massive experience. He has worked with Pep Guardiola, and he would come into the job fresh. But and Manchester United fans have made it very clear that they want a fresh start. They want a fresh start, and the Man United fans have made that very clear, and that's come from Gary Neville. Mark, show some balls and join the 90% club for an ambassador for Manscaped. His 90% club, Amir Khan. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But what we did get from Gary was he was asked again about which manager he would go for, and he said, I would go for Pochettino, and these were his exact words, and I'll read them to you because I tweeted them earlier. I've got a soft spot for Poch because I've seen him work close hand. I spent a week with him at Tottenham 5 or 6 years ago. The coaching was fantastic. He also what else did he say? He's also best placed because of what he did at Spurs and Southampton. There's no shock. Premier League experience. I mean, look. He also went on to say that PSG, people are saying that the PSG thing is a bad thing, but I actually think it's shown that he's more rounded because he's now managed star players. So, I mean, look, I respect the honesty there. I do respect the honesty, but the reality is he wants Pochettino because he spent a week with him 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, he spent a week with him and was impressed with his excellent coaching. You know what year 5 or 6 years ago was? Man United had won a trophy then. That's how long ago it was. We're talking 2016. Like, you can't... Well, you can. Of course he can. But I think it exposes his opinion that he wants Poch because he knows him, basically. I've spent some time with him and he's a good coach. I wonder if he spent a week with Erik ten Hag last month, whether he'd want to be with go for Erik ten Hag. And that's always been my argument. These people are saying, I want Poch. And they'll sit there and go, yeah, but it's just my opinion. And people are asking me for it. Yes, they are. But also, you've got millions of followers who might be influenced by your opinion. And you're not giving a balanced opinion because you've not actually researched what Erik ten Hag's all about. And actually, you're just saying, oh, I'd give Poch the job because I spent a bit of time with him 6 years ago. And he's Premier League proven, which we know. Premier League proven doesn't actually mean anything, considering how many managers have won the Premier League without any Premier League experience. As for the PSG thing, meaning he's more experienced at managing big egos, I mean, look, does that mean anything? I don't know. Ten Hag feels like Sancho when we finally got him, says Jack Brown. Now we're hiring people because Neville has got a soft spot for him. So would Neville give the job to his nephew because he's known him forever, says Jameson Gray. Look, I think when Gary and Rio and Roy and everyone like that backed Solskjaer, I think they were backing a mate, and I think it was wrong when you're a pundit to just be backing a mate blindly when you've criticised other managers that weren't your mate. But on this, I don't have a problem with Paul Ince. I don't have a problem with Gary Neville. I mean, I don't have a problem with them anyway, but I mean, you can always dissect their opinions. But I don't have a problem with Paul Ince, Gary Neville, Teddy Sheringham, Nicky Butt wanting Pochettino because he's more familiar to them. What I'm saying is I don't think we should put much weight on that opinion when they're not going for Erik ten Hag because they don't know as much about him. That's not a balanced opinion. But what he did say is he expects Manchester United to go for Erik ten Hag because they've got experience of swaying with the wind, and the wind is blowing with Erik ten Hag, which just sounds a little bit bitter to me. I think United need to be better than swaying with the wind. The reality is the vast majority of United fans want Erik ten Hag because they have looked at it balanced. Look, I've looked at it. People ridicule me and others who said in November we wanted Pochettino, but actually it's a badge of honour. Do you want to know why it's a badge of honour? Because it shows you've got a balanced opinion. Because back in November, I thought Pochettino was available, and I felt we needed a permanent manager in November. So I wanted Pochettino. He was the best manager available in November. He's not a bad coach. He was the best manager available in November. When we got Rangnick, we said we're going to wait till the summer, and that's the point where I went, I'm out. I'm not Pochettino now because there's a lot more people available now. So I looked into it, like many of you, and I only started getting on the Ten Hag bandwagon about a month ago, because I started looking into it, and I was like, I'm not sure I want. I've never been totally sure on Poch, even though he's a good coach. And the more I looked at it, I was like, no, Erik ten Hag's the right man here. So I've actually done it in a balanced way, because in November I was like, let's get Poch. He's available. He's the best available. But now, waiting till the summer opens up the opportunities, and yeah, Poch is still available. He's a good coach, but for me, Erik ten Hag supersedes him based on the the deep dive evidence I've put into it, and I think a lot of people have done it. So at least we're coming at it from a balanced opinion. Doesn't mean it's a right opinion. I think it's right, but it doesn't mean it's right. But at least it's balanced. I think a lot of people are just picking Pochettino, as has been evidenced, because he's familiar, or they spent a bit of time with him. Mark, do you agree that getting Poch will be more than a worse appointment? No trophies and more decline, making us more irrelevant, says Connor. James, welcome to Members Club. And you think after finally signing Ten Hag, we'd have a chance on signing Gravenberch as our CDM, since Bayern is still trying to lowball the price, says Flavio. The trouble with Gravenberch is, fantastic player, but he's Mino Raiola's client as well. I mean, look, maybe if we got it quick enough, we might be able to go and do something there. But I'm not so sure. But, even Gary himself said, it feels like if you're not, he admitted it looks like United are going to go with Erik Ten Hag now, and that's where everything's moving towards. That's where the positivity is. And even he conceded that if United did go for Poch now, the United fan base would almost there'd be disappointment in it. So, and he did admit, he did a poll on Twitter, and 82% on his poll wanted Erik Ten Hag, and he said, I was really surprised by that. So obviously he doesn't agree with it. But obviously he's not stupid enough not to realise that opinion is massive, and that the positivity and movement is Erik Ten Hag. And then if they did appoint Pochettino, there would be a general disappointment in the fan base. So look, I think stand by your opinion, which is what he's done, and he's explained it. It's basically because he knows the guy. I get it, but these pundits are getting paid for their opinion but can't be bothered to do some research, says Jameson Gray. Yeah, I don't know about that. I did have a problem when they were just sticking up with Ollie because he's his mate. I think when you're paid to be a pundit, you can't just defend someone because they're your mate. You're paid for an opinion that's a football opinion. Your mate's not a football opinion. But on this, does Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher or Roy Keane, when they're asked a question on who would they go for, Poch or Ten Hag, are they meant to know everything about Ten Hag and everything about Pochettino? I mean, it'd be nice if they did, but I don't necessarily. I think ultimately their raw opinion is what people like as well. I don't have a problem with that, but it doesn't mean it can't be scrutinised. And as I said, the funny thing is, I said this 4 or 5 nights ago. I said, these people are picking him because of familiarity. They're not picking him because they know he's better than Ten Hag. Do you think Bruno already agreeing to an extension means he must know their plan moving forward? Who knows, Daniel? He shouldn't know. He should not know. No Man United player should know anything more than anybody else, because ultimately United players, as Paul Ince said this morning, I don't think other clubs run like this. I don't think other clubs are going to their players and empowering them and saying, what do you think about the manager, or this is the plan. You're a player. This is the problem. We've diluted what Manchester United should be. Respect. To the fans, Manchester United is something huge. You go to Old Trafford, or you watch a game, or you just feel what Manchester United is, all its history, all its power. It's bigger than anything. But I think the way it's run, they've diluted it. They're almost like, yeah, you do wear a United shirt, but please can you retweet this? Or what do you think about this manager? That conversation should never be happening. It never happened when we were good. So why is it happening now when we're crap? And is it a reason why we're crap? Because the players don't have the respect for the club that they did when we were good. Our board do what they want, couldn't care less what fans think. Poch in, Kane in, and win nothing, says Ray Cowley. Well, let's see. Let's wait and see what happens. I think it's going to be interesting. Bruno doesn't know because the club don't know, says Delaney. That's a good point. If you look at the volume of factual info in terms of the situation, there's far more on Ten Hag. We only worry about the appointing Poch due to board incompetence. There isn't much solid on info on Poch, says Alex Hampshire. I would applaud that by Alex. I think he's, the voice of reason. Alex is there. I totally agree with you. I was even saying this in a group I was in a few hours ago. Somebody said, how's everyone feeling at the moment? A lot of people were saying Ten Hag, and I said, the cynic in me says it's Pochettino because I just don't trust this board. But if I knew nothing about United's board and I only knew what we'd seen over the last week, I 100% would say it looks like it's Erik Ten Hag who's going to get the job, because all the noise is, everything is towards Erik Ten Hag. The interview was fantastic. The progression of the deal, the journalists who were saying it, obviously the fan base does help, but ultimately, what we're hearing tonight about negotiations for the exit fee and Ajax being very accommodating, Everything is for Erik ten Hag, and the only reason I think Poch is because I fear this board is incompetent. You're right, but maybe we've got change, and if we do get Erik ten Hag, then I would applaud it. I don't think our problems are over. You just move to the next battle. Is will they give him the freedom to rebuild the club? All these ex-players, and let's be honest, there's nothing really come out about Poch. PSG, I don't think, are playing ball, so thank God. All these ex-players saying they prefer Pochettino because they shared some time with him. It sounds more like they shared a bed, says Hector. Well, no one's suggesting that, Hector. We don't know that filth, Hector. There's no one saying anything like that. But you know what? I would love it if an ex-United player had gone and spent a week with Ajax, because I think we'd get a different. I do think we'd get a different opinion. You know, I think if Gary Neville had been and spent a week with Ajax, I think he'd come back and say, unbelievable, he's my man. But I think it just is lack of familiarity. It's not lack of respect. Definitely not lack of respect. I just think it's... Some people go with what they know, don't they? That's quite a common human trait. People will go with what they know. If you've got two people going for a job in your office and one of them's got a great CV and one of them's got a good CV, but you know them, a lot of people will go with the one that they know rather than the one that they don't know. That's not right. You should always go for the best candidate, but some people do that. They do. Mark, what do you think of I don't know whether that's real there. Why did Maguire get booed last night? Because people didn't agree with him being in the squad, basically. That reminds me, I'm not going to give the Twitter account out, because I do like the Twitter account, and I don't think that's fair, but it was a good point. But basically, it was about Harry Maguire, and they basically said something along the lines of, on Twitter, and I was tongue in cheek, but I said, is this a piss take or is it serious? And I knew they were being serious. But they basically said, if Harry Maguire was playing for Manchester City with a better midfielder in front of him, a better goalkeeper behind him, and a better system with better passing, he'd be a top-class centre-back. And some people agreed with it, and some people ridiculed it. I just replied and said, we're doing it again. We're doing it again. A player that's on 200 grand a week, £80 million, and is our captain, and has been crap for us, would be a good player at one of the world's best sides. What does that even mean? He's the captain of Manchester United. His job is to inspire and make those players around us better. He cost £80 million. That means he's meant to be one of the world's best centre-backs. You can't say, oh, he's crap for United, but if he played for City with the better players and this, that and the other, he'd be a better player. You have to. It's the same thing with Pogba. People have said this for years. Oh, Pogba, we've not built a team around him. Whether that's true or not, there's still a responsibility on the player to put better performances in. You put Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo when they were good players in their prime, because Maguire's in his prime, he's 29. Let's not compare him to a 34-year-old Messi or a 36-year-old Ronaldo who are starting to decline now. You put a prime Messi or a prime Ronaldo in a Stoke team, do you think they'd be crap? I don't. I still think they'd be world class. They'd probably get less of the ball, but they'd still be bloody world class. Class is permanent. You can't say about an £80 million player who's your captain on 200 grand a week, well, he might be bad for us, but it's not his fault, because if you put him in a Man City side, one of the best teams in the world, he'd be a better player. No shit, Sherlock. Do you think there is any truth on the legend assistant coach, or is it all paper talk? Again, Van Nistelrooy ruled out if it's true, says Lil. No, I think Erik ten Hag would have to bring in his own coaches, because we've seen with Ralf Rangnick how difficult it is, no matter how good the man is, if you surround him with coaches that aren't his own coaches. I want Ten Hag, but I fear just be another failure because of the board. As you said, board won't allow certain sales and probably certain signings, as Ray. As I've said before, if they appoint Erik ten Hag, I will applaud it, but I will not do what I did with Mourinho, where I thought, oh my God, we're going to win titles again. I'm not going to make that mistake. If the road to recovery for Manchester United is measured in distance, I would say the road to recovery is 100 steps. Appointing Erik ten Hag would be the first step of 100. There's so many more things that we need to do after getting the right manager. But I feel that Pochettino would be a step back, whereas I think Ten Hag's a step forward. There's still massive concerns about the people running the club, the coaches, the board, the owners. Those things, it's still open season, but appointing Erik ten Hag would be something they wouldn't have done 3 years ago. They wouldn't have done 6 years ago. They wouldn't have done 9 years ago. Maybe it's a step in the right direction. And with a new CEO and a new step in the direction, we need to encourage that and hope that it continues. Because ultimately, the Glazers aren't going anywhere off protests. The Glazers are only going to go if we find a viable buyer. And that's never come forward for, 15 years. Stam said he'd accept the job. Yeah, I don't think we need to go for an ex-legend for the club. I don't really see that. That's I don't really see that as a relevant thing. I mean, I can't remember where it was tonight, but I did see something on one of the aggregator sites as well. And remember, I said this about a week ago as well, before it came out about Erik ten Hag's interview. I think it was on the Sunday before Erik ten Hag's interview, and I said, we're starting to get a lot of tier 3/2 outlets talking about Erik ten Hag having an interview. And then within 48 hours, we got the tier 1 saying there had been an interview. I would say tonight, beyond the Sky thing, we're starting to get a few tier 3, tier 2 outlets rumbling about Erik ten Hag. Things are moving in his favour and moving further away from Pochettino. So I would say that we should be getting a bigger update in the next 24 to 48 hours. I mean, I joked that we'll find out on Friday. I don't think we'll find out on Friday. I hope we do. Mark, our best British players give their opinion on Poch being United next manager. Ajax allowing United to interview their manager is also approved by an ex-Manchester United player in Edwin van der Sar, says Amir Khan. And he was a good ex-player as well, you're right. Mihir says, Ten Hag, it's a conspiracy theory, but he says Ten Hag has already agreed to join us, waiting for Ajax league to be won by them. It's a two-way horse in their league, isn't it? Yes. Well, next appointment after Ten Hag should be Paul Mitchell, Mark. I would love that, Ihab. And it's not impossible that happens, so I would like that. Although he has been linked to PSG, because they're getting rid of Leonardo. 30 million plus Martial plus Henderson for Kane. Would you do it? Says Callum. I'd rather do 30 million plus Martial for Darwin Nunez. To be honest with you, and but I don't know. I don't know whether I'd do that deal, because what's happening with Ronaldo? I don't know. You can't keep Ronaldo and buy Harry Kane. That can't happen. And I wanted to talk about that actually. Let me come back to that, because let's have a look at the poll. We've had nearly 10,000 votes, which is a lot on a poll. What percent are you on Erik ten Hag? 11% of you are 25% sure we'll get him. 22% of you are 50% sure we'll get him. 31% of you are 75%, and 37% of you are 90%. So it's safe to say that 68% of you who voted are very confident we're going to get Erik ten Hag. I wish I'd shared that confidence. I really, really hope you're right. I'm just still locked in on this concern about United board incompetence and making a silly decision. But look, I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. Anyway, I did want to talk about Ronaldo, because there was a story, I think it was ESPN today, when they were saying that United are still concerned about Ronaldo's future. He's not made any decision on his future yet. I've always said this, I think I said it first in September. If United don't get top 4, I think Ronaldo will leave, because he's missed the Champions League. I can't imagine Ronaldo playing Thursday night football. I really, really can't. So I still believe that there is a chance that Ronaldo will leave if we're not in the Champions League next year. Granted, I think the fact that the World Cup's at Christmas and he might want a bit of stability going into that might lead him to stay at United. But I mean, look, he's the all-time Champions League scoring record holder. Do you think he's going to sit there and go, well, that's the end of my record then, because I'm not going to play in the Champions League ever again? I just don't know. I think there might be a temptation. There has to be an offer. Admittedly, he's very expensive. But the club I think that might go for him is actually PSG. So I wouldn't rule out Ronaldo going. But if Ronaldo goes, that's the only way you can go for Harry Kane. You don't go for Harry Kane if Ronaldo stays, because Ronaldo will stay for another year, which means by the time Harry Kane becomes our number 9, he'll be 30, because he's 29 this summer. Another season of Ronaldo, 30 by the time he becomes our number 1. It doesn't make sense to spend £100 million on a striker when Ronaldo stays. So I think Harry Kane only becomes logical if Ronaldo leaves. And to me, if Ronaldo's staying, you've got to go for a younger striker so that when Ronaldo retires in a year or moves on, you've got a younger striker. My opinion, Ten Hag like Ferguson 86, Poch like Moyes 2013. I go Ten Hag every day, says Ray. And I'd rather see Roy Keane be the manager over Poch. I'd be so pissed off if the board decided to go for Poch, says Gav MUFC. Throw you some questions in. Please no Kane, it shows no change yet again, says no liability. I'm Harry Byrne. That's very much a That's Football thing, so here we go. Mark, we are 1/3 on for Ten Hag. That is a very, very 1 to 3 on for Ten Hag. That is a very, very heavy favourite, says Indy Red. I feel like saying what we do with players. I won't believe it till he's holding the shirt up. And to me, this is way bigger than any signing we've ever made. This is absolutely huge. Like, I can't think of a signing that I was as this nervous about. Like, with Eric Ten Hag, I think it's the difference between change and more of the same. And I'm desperate for change. And I don't care if anybody's 99%, 100%, whatever. Until that deal is done and he's holding up the shirt, I won't believe United are doing it. And I will always think, even as he's about to write it, Poch is going to come through the window and knock him out and sign the contract himself. Sounds ridiculous, but that's what I'm scared about. I can't begin to believe or dream about it until it happens. Why is Ten Hag such a favourite for you? I don't think any manager can save us. I get not wanting Poch, but is Ten Hag the only other option available, says user. Great question. And if PSG appoint Mitchell, that confirms likely that Poch is staying, says Dan. Yeah, I mean, could be something like that. Let me go back to that question from user 234, because I think it's been we've had so much conversation over the last 10 days that I don't really know if I've spoken about why I want Ten Hag, or you've spoken why you want Ten Hag, because we've been just fighting for him for so long. But for me, it's very simple why I want Eric Ten Hag. I want a new Manchester United. I said this when Solskjaer got sacked. I wanted Conte. I want a reset. I want a new Manchester United. I want something that we've not done before. I want a fresh start. And therefore, he is the perfect manager for that, because as a manager of Ajax, you've got to have a strong link to your youth, the structure of the football club, and a vision from top to bottom. You must be good at developing youth. You must be good at bringing players in that fit your system and fit your future. And I think this is what Manchester United need. We need to recruit players that fit our system and are going to be part of our future, not shirt sellers. We need to have a path from the youth to the front, to the first team. And we have got players who can make that jump. There are numerous players that we can all name. They won't all make it, but there are numerous. We also need an identifiable style of football that is the envy of everybody else, that is entertaining and breathes life back into this football club. Because I think it's starved of oxygen over the last 9 years. Eric Ten Hag puts a tick into all these boxes. And one of the big things for me, because I could talk to you about how he plays football and this, that and the other. One of the big things for me is as well, and I've been saying this for a while, if you think about the season where we finished second under Mourinho, I remember doing a show at the end of the season and somebody said, how do you go from being second but miles off Man City? And we were having the chat, and basically I said, a lot of people agreed, Man City are a long way ahead of us in first and we're second. What we've got to do is, if they buy a £100 million player, we need to buy 2. Because we've got to do what they do to stay with them, and then we've got to do something better to try and close the gap. We didn't. It was a crap summer transfer window, and Mourinho got sacked. But that was the summer where Liverpool went and bought 4 or 5 players and went from, I don't know, maybe they were 4th or 3rd. The next season they were fighting for the title with Manchester City whilst Mourinho got the sack. We need to do the same now. That's what Manchester United need to do. We need to, and the manager situation's the same. And that's why I keep saying this. How do you do that with a manager then, Mark? Because it's not about where you finish in the league, or if they buy this player, they buy that player. You've got to put yourself into the mindset of a Liverpool or a Manchester City and say, if they sacked Klopp, or if they sacked Pep, or if they left, more likely, where would they go for a manager? And in my opinion, and this is why I want Erik ten Hag, they would, because Man City have been linked to him and Liverpool are admirers of him, they would interview that Erik ten Hag, and they would probably try and appoint Erik ten Hag. That's why we need to go for him as well. A lot of top clubs, especially in this country, really rate him. So, I mean, there's a lot more reasons, but those are the big ones. Mark, do you think Man United will spend any amount to get Poch? If yes, they are adamant or foolish, says Ram. Top 5 United players ever in order. I'm not doing that, William. And you've got a Chelsea badge. I'm not doing that. The chat will do that for me. We're not in that sort of a mood. We're in a feisty, serious mood here. Do I think Man United would pay any fee for Poch? No, because they're tight with money. I don't think they would spend 10 million on Pochettino to be able to talk to him now when they could get him for free in the summer. So I personally think PSG, I don't know this 100%, but if I was PSG and United want to talk to Pochettino, I would say pay his release fee, 15 million. If you want him, pay the money. Oh, well, are you sacking him? None of your bloody business. We don't know what we're doing yet. We'll get to the end of the season and then we'll decide. And maybe PSG are doing that. Whereas Ajax are saying, you can talk to him, we're realistic, we know he wants to go, he's been a great servant for us, we'd be very proud of him if he did go to Man United. Crack on, this is the fee we want, it's not a lot, it's a fair price, have an interview with him, have a chat with him. That might be why this has developed. We might end up with Erik ten Hag because Pochettino was hard to get. It's not the right reason. They should be going for Erik ten Hag because he's the right man to get. But if we end up with the right man... Julian Burns here from South Africa. Erik ten Hag in 100%. I can feel it in my gut. Also, can you shout out my unborn child? I'm naming him Jude after Bellingham, says Julian Burns. Well, shout out to Jude whenever he does come out. And for now, good news, good answer. To be fair, I just have no faith in our board, says US234. Well, I don't. As of this moment, I don't have any faith in the United board at all. I'm not going to pretend that I do. Would you take Southgate over ten Hag? Oh my God. Can you imagine? Cuteness says that. Can you imagine Gareth Southgate as our coach? I mean, he has been linked to us in the past. He's not getting the job. Don't worry, I'm not giving you nightmares. But can you imagine Southgate as our coach? Back 5, building his team round Harry Maguire. Back 5, 2 holding midfielders, all the attacking talent on the bench, waistcoat, grinding out results. I mean, Southgate's just Ollie. I think Ollie was actually better than Southgate. People will say, you're joking, he took him to the final of the Euros. Tell me a Premier League club that would give Southgate a job. After Ralph and him moving upstairs and appointing Ten Hag, is credit due to Richard Arnold so far as the CEO, if it happens, says Akshay. You can only judge somebody on the job that they do. Richard Arnold has been at this club for a while. He's come out with some ridiculous comments as head of marketing or whatever. He has made some clangers in the past. But as CEO, if he keeps Rangnick and he appoints Erik ten Hag, he's only been in the job for 3 months. You've got to give him some credit. How much credit you want to give him is up to you, but you've got to give him some credit because it's a new direction, which is what we want. And ultimately, if the board is doing things that the fans want, then you're on the right track. You do get these people saying you shouldn't be swayed by the fans. Hold on a minute. If the fans turn their back on the club, what happens? You're all out of a job. If the fans decide that you're not playing this game, what happens? The game doesn't get played. Don't dismiss fan opinion. And the reality is, if you look at Liverpool, a lot of what their board does pleases their fans, and their fans are happy. They're not doing what the fans necessarily want, but they do things that the fans like. And that is the win. As a CEO of Manchester United, you should be doing things that the fans are going to like. Not necessarily what the fans are demanding, but preempting them. You know, when Liverpool bought Diaz in the January transfer window, we'd have been singing from the rooftops if United had done that in the January transfer window. We didn't. Liverpool already in a title race. Go and sign Diaz in the January transfer window. Were they expecting that? Probably not. Were they excited about it and happy with it? Yes. Their board are off doing things that their fans aren't even demanding, and that keeping your fans happy is a good move, and he's got an opportunity to do that. Hypothetical question: would you rather get Erik ten Hag and Paul Mitchell or a CDM? Oh, I hate it, Malavia. I'd go for Erik ten Hag though, because I think the manager is more important, and maybe Erik ten Hag could make Scott McTominay a lot better, could make Fred a lot better, could make Harry Maguire a lot better, could make Marcus Rashford a lot better. I mean, all these things are up. I don't think they all will, but they're all possibilities. Mark, I think Ronaldo would play more than 1 year. He's built like Ibrahimovic, and Ibra is still decent as a striker, says Peter. I also do think that Ronaldo has a big future at United under Erik ten Hag and Pochettino. I don't think he doesn't suit either of their systems. Have you seen the news? Richard Arnold wants to take more of a backseat role regarding the next manager, says Asher. I haven't heard that, Asher, but if there's any truth in that, it's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. How can the CEO take a back seat on the... How can you take a back seat on the recruitment of the manager when you're the CEO? Come on, that just sounds like a cop out. You can't do that. You can't do that. There is some developments around Darwin Nunez as well. Some people are talking about that. I'd love that to happen. I'll tell you what, he's not an ex-Man United player. I was just having a quick look on Twitter, but there's a lot of people who've spoken sense today. This is a tweet from Matt Letizia. If Gareth Southgate doesn't want fans booing his players, then he should stick to what he said when he took on the job, that he would pick players on form for their clubs. Oh, and the fans pay their money to watch, so they're allowed an opinion, I'd say. It's very true, isn't it? It's very true. I think the reason that Harry got booed last night was because of Southgate. I think it's not logical that there was a load of United fans booing Harry Maguire, because United fans don't really boo their players. So I don't think that would be the case. I think it was because they were frustrated with a player being picked when he's not been playing very well. And that's on Southgate. Mark, even if we do get Ten Hag, we need to back him. I don't think the club will back him the same way that a Liverpool or Man City would. Well, that's the challenge of the club, and that will be very, very easy for us as fans to read and call out. Watch the overlap. Did you see the poll that they carried out about what percentage of United fans want Poch? Want Poch 25%, Ten Hag 19%. Can't be right. No, that's not right, Rory. That can't be right. That was probably polled from the people in the room who aren't even United fans. Look, the reality is, if I was a non-United fan and I saw a poll between Erik ten Hag and Poch, I'd vote for Poch. Because every rival fan I talk to wants us to get Pochettino. They don't want us to get Ten Hag because they it's like if I was voting on Liverpool's next manager and it was a choice between Erik ten Hag and Tony Pulis, I'd vote for Tony Pulis because I want them to get a shit manager. Did you see Southgate saying that he believes Harry Maguire is the best centre-back at Manchester United? I was stunned. I sort of touched on it a little bit on the 2 o'clock show, Amit, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but ultimately he's talking out his arse. He's talking absolute crap. Opinions on James Garner, says Thomas. I think he's a really interesting player. And I'll trust the manager on what they decide to do next season. I've personally always felt that I would like to see James Garner go back on loan to a Premier League club. I don't want him to just sit on the bench at United, but if he gets ideal. Liam, that's the worst one I've ever seen, and if I'd said it, it's totally inappropriate, so I'm sorry you're blocked. And Flavio says, it's me again. I only want to thank you for always reading my chats. I feel very welcome in the United Stand family. I'm Brazilian and I can teach you how to pronounce the name Araújo if you want. I would love to know how to do it. I've learned how to do Darwin Nunez today. Yeah, like lasagna. It's Darwin Nunez. So there we go. If you could pick, Mark, what one City player would you have? Says Cuteness91K. Rodri. crying out for a CDM. Rodri, yeah. Ten Hag was a coach and sporting director at the same time for FC Utrecht, so he knows about building teams. Yeah, he's also worked under Pep for 2 years. Do you think Gareth Southgate was a better defender than Maguire in his prime? It's a good question, Crypto, and I sort of have to admit to being quite old to tell you that it's close, to be honest. That Harry Maguire has got his good points. Southgate was I thought he was a pretty half decent centre back. He's nowhere near as good as a Carragher or a John Terry or a Rio Ferdinand or, you know, some of the better centre backs we've had for England. Why can't we have players like Garner on the bench? We need players at this quality on the bench if we're going to compete, says Nicholas. Because he's developing, mate. You're right, you do need good quality players on the bench, but I don't want a player who's developing sat on the bench wasting a season. The reason people are talking about Garner is because he's not sat on the bench at United. It's because he's playing games in the Championship week in, week out and impressing. And people want to bring him back and stick him on the bench where he can't continue that development. I've been watching football and playing football all my life, and I'm telling you now, the age between 18 and 22 is huge. If you don't develop that player by the time they're 22, forget about it. They need to be playing regular football. And the benefit of James Garner is he's been playing regular football for the last year. I don't want him to come back to Man United and train with the first team for a year and get a handful of cameo appearances. I'd rather he was at Brighton or Leeds or whoever wants him and playing 20, 30 starts. That's what I want. And if United want to start him next season, let's keep him. But if we're not going to use him, I would rather he went out on loan. And also, as good as he is he ready to play for Man United? Mr. Goldbridge, what do you think about Van Nistelrooy to United? Well, he's PSV's new manager, which is quite interesting as well because PSV are in a title race with Ajax. They've just announced the new manager today, so it can happen in that league. I can't help but think Maguire was playing under Pep, he'd be doing well, says Pritam. But Pritam, I've spoken about this before. I don't understand that comment because you're basically giving players a free pass. Let's take another shit player that's not performed well this season. So let's take Scott McTominay. Oh, if you played him under Klopp, he'd be a good player. But the reality is, Harry Maguire under Pep Guardiola wouldn't even be on the bench because he's got 4 better centre-backs. So, of course, there would be an improvement, but where's the responsibility for the individual? It's like Jamie Carragher said today. You're going to get jeered if you're not playing well. Sort yourselves out, take on the challenge, play well and shut people up that way. We've got to stop making excuses for crap performances. I saw somebody say today, I think, somebody was saying that in 10 years you won't be able to criticise anybody. It's not abuse to criticise somebody. Like, it's a critique. If you go to a comedian and they're crap and you jeer them or boo them, it's because they're crap. If you get served up a rubbish bit of meat at a restaurant tonight, you've got every right to send it back. You don't just eat it and go, well done, I don't want to abuse you by sending it back. Like, you can critique people. And I don't understand this whole, if such and such played under Pep, they'd be good. You're just giving it... So basically, if Pep had been managing us against Atletico Madrid in Madrid, Harry Maguire wouldn't have lost João Felix. Come on. Like, these players have paid a lot of money. They've got to take responsibility for their own performance. Any player is going to be better playing under Pep Guardiola. It's not unique to crap players. Mason Mount would probably be better under Pep Guardiola, but he's already a bloody good player at Chelsea. That's the way I look at it. Why don't you tell me a good player that would be better under Pep Guardiola, like Jadon Sancho? Why? When people say about crap players, it's almost like they're making an excuse. Well, they're only crap because they play for United. If they played at Man City, they'd be world class. Bullshit. If they were world class at Man City, they'd be half decent at United. I accept that if you put a United player under Klopp or Pep, they're going to be better. But that's still no excuse for being shit at United. Okay, let's have a look here. Hi Mark, should we get Ten Hag? What do you think happens with Van der Beek? This is Grant. Well, I'm a bit like UK Gold here because I'm going to repeat myself, but it is gold. if we get Erik ten Hag, if you look at the players at United that we're going to lose, Pogba's going, Lingard's going, Mata's going. Can't do anything about that. People like Eric Bailly and Donny van der Beek, well, Donny van der Beek's the main one, really, isn't he? Donny van der Beek will 100% be given a chance by Erik ten Hag, and suddenly a player that looked like he's on his way out the club could become a ready-made replacement for somebody that's definitely leaving. Paul Pogba's leaving. Everybody knows that. Paul Pogba needs replacing. But we already need a CDM. A CDM does not replace Paul Pogba. If we spent £100 million on Declan Rice, that doesn't replace Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba doesn't play CDM. We haven't got a CDM. So we need a CDM, and that doesn't replace Paul Pogba. But if you appoint Erik ten Hag, you replace Paul Pogba with Donny van der Beek, with the manager that made him the player that everybody wanted to buy 3 years ago. So that to me is just a massive bonus that Donny van der Beek will finally be given the proper chance at Manchester United. Rory Saunders says it was a YouGov poll, stupid poll, not accurate. There you go. And also, as well, I think the other thing that I have said before as well, I think, is that people keep saying, well, even if we get Ten Hag, the board won't back him. One thing this board have always done in the Europa League is back their manager, because they're shit scared. We've never been outside the Champions League 2 years in a row. We can afford it 1 year because most of the sponsors are like, if you're out for 2 years, there's a reduction in the sponsorship, so you've got to get back in the next year. So we always spend a lot of money when we're in the Europa League. We did it with Ollie. He wasted it. 80 on Harry Maguire, 50 on Wan-Bissaka, 15 on Dan James. So we spent 150 million. We did it with Mourinho when we got Pogba and Mkhitaryan. And I think it was Bailly, wasn't it? And Zlatan. And we will do it this summer. Now, to me, backing the manager is 150 million. That's what you need to do in season one. That's fine. 150 million, I don't expect anything more than that. It'd be lovely if we did. 150 million is absolutely fine by me. So, if you've got 150 million to spend and you don't need to replace Paul Pogba because you've got Donny van der Beek coming back, you can use that 150 million pounds better. So, I'm not. I think the board are on a win-win here. You appoint Erik ten Hag. Most people agree that's the right decision. He will bring Donny van der Beek back as a replacement to Paul Pogba. You've got a replacement for Paul Pogba. £150 million to spend. Most people would agree that that's a fair amount for your first season. Crack on. Let's see what happens. It becomes a very smooth season for a very smooth off season for Manchester United if they appoint Erik ten Hag and give him 150 million quid. Because I don't think many people can complain about that. I think 150 million is about right amount, and Erik ten Hag is the right manager. And also, you can't solve every problem in the first summer. I'm really key if we get Erik ten Hag to say that, look, this has to be, I hate to say it, but it almost has to be like what's happened at Arsenal, where maybe a problem player doesn't go straight away. Maybe look at Aubameyang. It's taken him 18 months to get rid of him. It took him a year to replace his goalkeeper. Maybe Erik ten Hag comes in and goes, I don't really rate that player, but but next season I'm going to have to use him, but I'm going to gradually work him out the team. Those sort of things, thumbs up. Maybe in this first summer he goes, right, long term I need 6 or 7 first team players, but short term I'm going to get these 3 in. That'll get us top 4 next year, and then next summer I'll get rid of another 3 and another 3 come in, and then we'll be fighting for the title in year 2. I mean, that's probably very ambitious, but you know what I mean. We're not going to solve everything in one summer. But I think 150 million, 3/4 signings, get rid of 5, 6, 7, 8 players. That's a good summer for United, and that's summer 1. And then summer 2, you're planning to do it again. Southgate is a typical modern left winger. If you disagree with me, not only are you wrong, you're a bad person, says Graham Barber. I don't get where Southgate's coming from, to be honest. David Briscoe, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Thank you very much. I tell you what, it's been an absolutely I tell you what, Gary, what do you think? Not Gary Neville. It's Gary Barlow. It's been absolutely incredible, Mark. Absolutely fantastic. I've loved every minute of it. You've been a fantastic audience, and I'm going to leave you with a million love songs. Come on, everybody, grab your hands. We're not doing a million love songs at all. Mark, can you say Garner's a prat, says Arshik. And Mark, do you think missing out on Bellingham might prove to be a costly mistake for United over the next decade? No. Tamar, hot take here, controversial take. Bellingham made the right choice. 100%. I wanted Bellingham. I'd heard good things about him from Birmingham. I wanted Bellingham to come to United, but he made the right choice. Jude Bellingham is playing first team football for the last 2 years, season and a half, at Dortmund, in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga. If he'd have come to Manchester United, Ollie would have sat him on the bench. He wouldn't have used him. So Bellingham made the right decision, 100%. We would have ruined him. Ollie would not have used him. He wouldn't have started him. He would have been a 17-year-old training with the first team. There's no way he was going to play Bellingham ahead of Fred or McTominay or Pogba or Bruno. So Bellingham made the right choice. Discount code isn't working, United stand. Okay, well it should be working, Noah. It always has worked. So I will drop a message to somebody now. But you can scan it and try it yourself. Thank you very much to Manscaped. Code is United stand, 20% off. It probably knocks it off already, Noah, knowing it used to do that anyway. If you scan the code, it might knock it off already. So give it a try. But if not, I'll get that sorted out for you now. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back in the morning. We've got a preview tomorrow afternoon. Come on. We've got a press conference on Friday. We've got a match on Saturday. It's crazy. All we want to talk about is the manager. Anyway, was it a costly mistake for United? Well, no, Tamar, because we didn't have the right manager to develop him. So, no. Loved the show tonight. I've loved all the 8 o'clock shows this week. They've been bloody brilliant. Do you think we'll get to see Donny playing regular for United if we get Ten Hag? Yes, Joel. I think he'll get the proper chance he deserves. Whether he'll be a success or not, no one can say that. But he'll get the chance he deserved. Take care, everyone. Check out the QR code or the link in the description. Big shout out to Manscaped.